thank you for joining us, and welcome to Does Your Brand Deliver? Just a couple of administrative things. If you've got any questions or comments, you can always go to the chat screen up here and then post that information. We won't necessarily see it immediately, but we'll have that information. And there's a couple of slide presentations here where we're actually going to ask you to respond. So again, thank you for joining. And so what we're going to talk about today, if I can get my screen to move, is what is a brand, why is it so important, and what do you need to do to take control of your brand? So there's a lot of discussion about brand. People have different points of view on what a brand actually is and how it applies to your company or organization. You could imagine that just about everybody has a brand, every organization has a brand, every company has a brand. That brand could be either negative or positive because a brand essentially is what makes up your company or organization and how people react to that. We're going to talk about why it's so important to have a distinct brand and what you need to do to take control of that brand. My name is Bob Grant. I'm president and founder of Grant Marketing. I have more than 25 years of experience in B2B brand consulting and strategic marketing. My associate Adele has more than 25 years of strategic marketing, communications, branding, messaging, and content development experience. And both Adele and I have worked with multiple of different types of companies and helping them build their brands. A lot of that in the manufacturing space, but we've also worked with educational technology software companies. We've worked with nonprofit organizations. So we've got, between the two of us, a great deal of experience, and hopefully we can share some of that with you today. The 3 to 7 second rule. What do we mean by the 3 to 7 second rule? Did you know that you have 3 seconds to grab the attention of someone you are sending an email to? Did you know that you have about 7 seconds to grab a visitor's attention on your website? The fact is, you have about that much time for someone to recognize and grasp the meaning of your brand. So what's in a brand? We've got a little exercise here. So if you look at these 4 taglines, what's in your wallet, the ultimate driving machine, imagination at work, just do it. Can you recognize those taglines? And so what's in your wallet? Any guess as to what company that is? Correct. Capital One. How about the ultimate driving machine? BMW. Correct. Imagination at work. This one's a little more difficult because this is a large corporate, more so business-to-business company. But Rob, you're correct. It's General Electric. And Just Do It. I think we all know what Just Do It is. And that is Nike. So we can also brands can also be expressed in terms of visual elements. So the same thing can apply here. We've got a group of fuzzy bears holding what looks like perhaps a cup of coffee, but it's not. So what brand is that? Any guesses? Yeah, yes, it's Charmin. And how about the guy with the bald head? And no, it's not me, but it's yes, it's Mr. Clean. Then we've got the ram's head in what looks like some sort of steel or metal. Any guesses as to what company or product that is? Right. Dodge trucks, because they are tough, just like a ram. And the last one is the lonely appliance repairman. So you might remember that he represents Maytag. The Maytag repairman actually came out about 30-odd years ago when Maytag, when they did their sort of brand strategy and processing, they came up with the fact that their appliances, particularly washers and dryers, never broke down. So as a result, their branding company came up with this idea of the lonely repairman who never has to go out on a repair call. Unfortunately, Maytag since has been bought out by Whirlpool, and I'm not so sure they can stand by that brand anymore, which just goes to show that brand essence can change over time for different companies. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So then we also have these visuals. So in 3 to 7 seconds, what would you think about when you see this logo, Chipotle? Somebody said vomiting. That's probably has to do with the fact that Chipotle restaurants recently have been under fire for having food poisoning in their restaurants, at least in the Boston area. So many of them have shut down temporarily while they can get it together. So Chipotle has now an uphill battle to rethink about what their brand is all about and recover some of that lost branding effort. How about Volvo? What do we think about when we see Volvo? Right, safety. Volvo is known for safety, also known for its endurance over time. When my daughter turned 16, I bought her a Volvo station wagon with 150,000 miles on it, and that Volvo station wagon lasted through another child, and then on top of that, gave it to an old friend from Mexico who drove it back to Mexico with over 200,000 miles on it. Excuse me. And now we've got a cereal box, Wheaties. What do we think about with Wheaties? Well, it's Wheaties has been known as Breakfast of Champions, but Sasha here says Bruce Jenner, which is kind of interesting, given the fact that Bruce Jenner was on the Wheaties box at one time, and now in his new persona, he's not on the Wheaties box. So, and what does this all have to do with you? So, what's your brand? How fast do your customers and prospects get your brand? Do your customers know what your brand is? Do your employees know what your brand is? And do your competitors know what your brand is? And vice versa, do you know what your competitor's brand is? Especially if we're trying to differentiate ourselves from competitors. So these are questions that you need to ask yourself. So what is a brand? Is it a logo? Is it a jingle? Is it a tagline, a product? It's actually none of the above. And as an example, this is a product, this is a service, this is a logo, and this is a personality. And each in itself is not a brand. So this is a brand. And of course, we're talking about Apple Computer. Apple is the #1 brand in the country. They're defined by the passion of its customers for its products and services. It's defined by the passion of the employees who work for Apple. It's about the products themselves, their quality, their design, When you walk into a Apple store, you're greeted by an associate that directs you to the product or service you're interested in. You're then met with another associate who explains to you and what product you might be interested in, and if you end up buying a product at an Apple store, it's all logged into their iPhones. They print you out a receipt, or I should say email you a receipt right from their smartphones. So they make it very easy to engage with Apple, and that is part of the whole essence of the Apple brand. So what is a brand, and what makes a brand powerful? Well, a brand needs to be simple, soulful, and inspiring. Simple so that it's easily understood by your audience and your employees. It differentiates you from the competition. It also has to have evidence of this distinction or this differentiation. Whatever that distinction is, you need to have the proof behind it to verify the fact that it is a true and strong brand. Sort of like that Maytag example where perhaps when it was a Maytag manufactured product, they could stand by the fact that those appliances didn't break down. But now that it's owned by Whirlpool, maybe that quality of manufacturing is not as good as it used to be, and therefore they can't stand by that idea that the appliances don't break down. A brand has a soul. The most successful brands are those that go behind implementing a branding campaign. The winning brands are the ones that have soul. A brand delivers inspiration to your team, your customers, and your partners. It delivers a promise of an excellent customer experience. And it helps create brand champions and loyal customers so that through your social media, through your content on your website, you're constantly promoting your brand and gaining champions for that brand. So what's the value of a brand? In terms of revenue, billions of dollars are locked up in B2B brands, yet managers consistently skimp on brand building, and that's an expensive mistake. How expensive? Well, the Apple brand, in fact, is estimated to be $145.3 billion. That's just for the brand itself. It has nothing to do with its assets, its real estate, or anything else. It's strictly the value of that brand. And whether you're a major corporation or a small family-owned business, your brand has value. According to a McKinsey report, more than 700 executives found that business-to-business purchasing decisions were less value-driven, that is, not totally based on price, and that the supplier's brands, their value propositions, were the key in that decision-making. So how do you create and sustain a powerful brand? Adele, how do we do that?
Thank you. Good question. Basically, what Bob has just talked about in terms of that passion and being inspirational and so forth, we tend to sort of go through a process for people of the discovery phase where, we find that passion, uncover that passion, looking at, why is the company in existence? What is the founder's story? That often leads to, there's some passion there. It's typically not just to make money, although that's nice. But what was the reason for creating the product or service or offering that to people? What was the need that you were seeking to fulfill? And then looking at, what is it that you give customers that no one else can do? And looking at a competitive analysis in terms of differentiating the company. What are your competitors doing well and not so well? And really looking at how you differentiate yourself in those terms. And then research. What do your customers think? What do your employees think, and do their perceptions align? That's pretty important, and a lot of times we'll find a disconnect when we're doing the internal and external research. So that can be a really interesting piece to do. And then looking at communications in terms of the creative expression. How well are you communicating your brand? Do you have a strong messaging platform? And then what is the visual expression of that brand? Then in terms of executing the brand, how well does that work in terms of, are you consistently communicating across all of your customer touch points and really driving that brand home throughout all of your communications? And then perhaps in some level, once you've established a fairly strong brand that's inspiring and can get people on board with everything you're doing, it's really important evolution. Obviously, your company is not stagnant. It evolves over time, as some of the examples we showed you earlier. So what do you need to do in terms of measuring and refining that brand as you go? Very important to do to ensure that you're staying relevant and fresh and competitive as your company evolves. This is kind of interesting. Is your brand baked into your company's DNA? A lot of times a brand sounds good, looks good, and so forth, but how much is it really a part of everyday operations in terms of, does the management team buy into the brand offering? Is that something that they're actively incorporating into the daily operations? And is it within every level of the organization? I mean, all the way from operations and finance to administration and pricing. Is the brand built into that? It's not just a marketing exercise. I think a lot of times it tends to be a little bit isolated there. So I think, it starts with that passion and the founder story. It then becomes a part of the everyday fabric of the organizational culture, and then being able to get that buy-in, enterprise-wide, that's so important. Again, talking about, do your corporate values and your goals align with your brand? And in some studies that we've seen, one from Weber Shandwick found that 96% of CEOs believe that their corporate brand is equally as important as a strong product brand, which is really interesting. They also found that corporate reputation and brand reputation are now nearly indivisible. So you may have a great product out there, but do people really, does that go back all the way back to the company in terms of what you're offering? And is it as strong in that sense? So that's really important to have those aligned. Kind of looking at who you are, can you, and we ask people this when we do the research, can you and your customers summarize your brand in a single word or a statement? This can be tough to do. And in addition to what you think of as taglines, we also have successful brands that really boil down their brand essence into short, succinct statements. Nike, we recognize them as just do it, but their brand essence is actually authentic athletic performance. So that they express that a little bit differently than sort of that external facing tagline or that we see more often. Disney's brand essence can be described as fun family entertainment. Starbucks is rewarding everyday moments. So it's really taking, what is key about what you're offering to people in towards of boiling that down to a fairly short statement, but then perhaps even a shorter statement when you then turn that into a tagline. Again, looking at what your customers think about you is awfully important. Do you regularly communicate with your customers to understand how satisfied they are? And, what are their perceptions of your brand? Are they positive? Do they have any perceptions at all? And then do you incorporate feedback from prospects, customers, vendors, and even the media to improve your organization's offering? We find that conducting research is really important at this level, and in terms of interviews with people, including customers, distributors, and strategic partners, can really help to obtain, learn more about what they're thinking, obtain that feedback that's so critical. Who are your brand champions? Can your employees easily articulate your brand offering and how it differs from the competition? We have found that it's really kind of amazing in terms of people. When employees are engaged, it's incredible. Gallup studies have shown that engaged employees are more productive, they create better customer experiences, and are more likely to remain with their employees. So as a result, employers win because they get a stable and motivated workforce, and subsequently they can spend more time strengthening the company brand. And this is kind of interesting as well. A Gallup study also revealed that companies with high employee engagement levels have a 3.9 times higher earnings per share than compared with similar companies within their industries that have lower engagement levels. So you're looking at almost 4 times the level of earnings per share when employees are highly engaged. So that's pretty amazing. Kind of an interesting person, John Moore, had co-authored something called The Passion Conversation, and he says that when it comes down to building a company culture that is focused on showing love to its customers, building and living a company's culture doesn't happen with a flip of a switch. It takes time, patience, care, and over-the-top respect for customers. Really important, I think, to bring in that customer voice and start to build the loyal customer base. And how loyal are your customers? Do they tend to stick with your brand, or do they flip back and forth between your competitors? By engaging in some of that research and really staying in regular communication with customers, it's just so critical. And then building a strong brand that they're going to relate to, and hopefully become real evangelists, and being able to not only be loyal but to go and tell other folks about it as well. It's actually obviously easier when you have loyal customers than trying to go out and continually build new ones. When you have word of mouth, that's a huge factor in building a good base. And do you deliver on your brand promise? This is an interesting one. Are your customers' interactions with your products, services, and employees, are they unique and memorable? It's kind of important that, as we said earlier, is that execution. When you get out there, are all those touch points really being consistent and really embracing your brand fully? Creating a strong brand that employees can fully embrace and rally around is essential to a successful and sustainable business. Kevin Keller is the author of Strategic Brand Management, and he came up with the term brand mantra and talks about how this relates to employees. And he says that ideally the brand mantra would also stake out ground that is personally meaningful and relevant to as many employees as possible. And another interesting thing, another Gallup poll found that brand promises matter to the customers, and Gallup research shows that they have a profound impact on business outcomes. The highest performing companies in Gallup's database deliver on their brand promise 75% of the time according to their customers. In turn, these companies have greater levels of customer engagement, which enables them to surpass their competitors in terms of share of wallet, profitability, revenue, and relationship growth. And then thinking about, that sort of what we talked about earlier, having that 3 to 7 seconds to make an impression. Well, what is that impression? What does your brand say about you? What do you look and sound like to not only your customers and prospects, but to your colleagues? And again, the brand encompasses many things, from brand narrative in terms of your tagline, your key messaging, your corporate voice articulation, to the visual expression, the logo, the color palette, down to the typography and the icons that you use in expressing your brand. And who's on board? Does your management team reinforce that brand message in their staff interactions and meetings and so forth? I find these statistics incredible. According to a Gallup poll, 31.5% of U.S. workers were engaged in their jobs in 2014, and employees in manufacturing jobs were even less engaged at only 23%. Those are pretty low figures. Another statistic from that was only 4 in 10, or 41% of workers strongly agree with the statement, quote, "I know what my company stands for or what makes our brand different from our competitors." That's not a good stat when people have so little awareness and such a low engagement level. It's really, really important. And one of the ways to engage employees is to involve them in branding. As branding really defines a company's services, products, and processes, and it's a driver in creating a service culture. So when employees are on board, they're going to feel really energized about the company, and then they're in turn going to get the customers excited. So it's really critical to, people kind of, I think, overlook that internal piece at times and think, oh, the marketing team's taking care of that. Well, it really needs to be the whole company culture on board. And then we talked a little bit earlier, is your brand sustainable? You may have invested quite a bit into your brand and feel pretty good about it, but really over time, it does need to be measured and assessed, again, to make sure it's really relevant and valuable to the customer. As we all know, changing demands, economic or environmental factors could all affect how a brand is perceived and can have a negative or positive impact on that. And today, it's amazing what we have. We have so much data at our fingertips with social media and such. It really makes it easy to measure the impact of marketing campaigns in quantifiable business objectives and to do it in real time, which is great. So being able to understand how your customers respond to your brand through data-driven measurement, it allows you to respond, adapt, and evolve your brand accordingly, continually being able to then keep your brand relevant and valuable. Really interesting. And we want to share with you one of the companies we've worked with. We've worked with quite a few companies, obviously, in branding and had some really interesting projects. But Scully Signal is a really terrific one, and Bob is going to tell you a little bit about that.
Yes, thanks, Adele. So Scully Signal Corporation. Scully Signal is a pioneer innovator in overflow protection equipment, and they were facing growing competition in its marketplace and needed to revitalize its corporate brand, its message, and its visual identity. Scully is the original inventor and industry leader in fail-safe overfill prevention and fluid handling systems for the petroleum, chemical, and aviation industries. The company has built a worldwide reputation for innovation, quality, and reliability. Just to put that in context of what we all may know about overfill prevention, many years ago when oil trucks were delivering oil to your home, if your home was heated with oil, there were two delivery people on the truck. One person to stick the nozzle in the pipe and pour it into the tank in the basement, where the second person's in the basement telling the guy with the nozzle to stop filling the tank when the tank was full. Well, Mr. Scully, the founder of this company, invented a shutoff valve within the nozzle itself, so that they knew they now didn't need two people on the oil truck, just one person, because the overfill prevention was there within the equipment itself. And now you expand that to oil fields and chemical distribution facilities and anything that's liquid. There needs to be protection so that these items don't spill over and cause fires and wreak havoc. So it's an important product, and the Scully company invented most of these preventions. So the challenge to Scully was, they were holding their top position for brand recognition and reliability in this market for years, but they were facing growing competition in the marketplace. And they knew that they need to revitalize their corporate brand, its message and visual identity, in order to be competitive. It began with a desire to discover the long-standing family legacy, connect the past with the future, and re-engage with customers, partners, and employees amidst an evolving industry landscape. So some of the comments that we got when doing the research for Scully, some person said they need to become market leaders again. Not a question of customers wanting a new product, but need to really create fireworks and communicate who they are and why they are the best. Another comment was Scully's marketing is non-existent because they rely upon their name. And Scully did reply, or should say relied on their name, because they were sort of the Kleenex of the industry. However, people like Civicon, a competitor, started being quite aggressive in the marketplace, and they were persuading users of these types of products to change to their products. So Scully had to do something. So they decided to, take a look at their brand and revitalize their brand. And they did this by, we helped them facilitate through focus groups with management and employees within Scully to fully understand the culture of the company and the perceptions of the company's brand. We conducted one-on-one interviews with Scully personnel in the U.S., Great Britain, and Belgium, and conducted interviews with designated global customers to understand their perception of the Scully brand. So as an outcome of this research, and the findings from the research, we were able to create a rebranded statement, our brand statement for the Scully brand, a new mission statement, supporting messages for the various marketplaces, and creating a new logo that combined a shield with a Dynacheck self-checking circuitry, which is one of their major products, to represent the protection and safety that Scully products provide. Also, to develop new collateral designs and materials to better communicate the Scully brand, a new website to, again, focus on new messaging, new imagery, and so on, And we also helped them create an inbound marketing strategy that integrated HubSpot marketing automation to implement inbound marketing tactics with blogs, social media, and other content to drive home this revitalized brand of Scully's. So for example, the Scully logo used to look like this. Again, these are these sort of Dynacheck electrical lines that are sort of meant to represent the fact that if this electricity is not kept in check, then it could cause an explosion. So the new logo sort of circled that zigzag line within a shield, sort of emphasizing the protection that Scully brings to their industry. And then they redesigned their website. This actually was their old website only about a year ago. And even the brand recognition in this homepage of the website, we don't have even their old logo. We've got this big green S. So the colors are similar, but there's no real identification with Scully itself. So it was very poorly done, and they were very eager to get this changed, which was changed to this with the new logo, new colors, new imagery, new messages, a complete content marketing strategy where we're now messaging not only in the multiple pages about their products and services, but also through their various social media outlets to deliver this revitalized Scully brand. Katrina Ohl, who's vice president of Scully and the granddaughter of the original founder, sort of summarized what this whole brand exercise and what their brand is all about. She says, "We are proud to be entering the third generation and celebrating 80 years of service in the industry. As we move forward, we look back at our strong legacy and use our experience to guide us as we continue to modernize the company and pioneer the industry. Throughout this rebranding process, we've been driven by a deeper purpose to continue to provide the safest, most reliable products and services while simplifying our customers' experience across all the touch points. We indeed feel revitalized and poised to move forward with a renewed commitment to our customers by delivering on the legacy of our brand promise." So the takeaways from this are by evolving their 80-year-old brand, Scully continues to be relevant to their customers and sustainable for the next 80 years. They built on their strengths and responded to customer research and feedback to create a contemporized brand that energizes employees, distributors, and engages their new customers and ensures customer loyalty. The response to this exercise and their new brand has been very positive. Preliminary measurable results include a 25% increase in their website traffic from 2015 to present day 2016. So investing in a strong brand makes your brand stand out from the competition, engages, inspires passion, and builds loyalty, and it contributes, more importantly, to the bottom line growth and revenues of your company. So what can you do now to help strengthen your brand, or at least give it an analysis? You can do a self-brand audit. We have what we call a brand report card on our website that you can access through this URL and sort of do your own self-analysis of how you rank in terms of the meaning of your brand and how effective it might be. You can also survey your customers. This could be a short survey asking the question, what do you think is our brand promise? What do we deliver, or do we deliver on our brand promise? And how are we different from other solution providers or competitors? You can also do a survey with your employees. And as we sort of mentioned to this presentation, the importance of your employees being your brand champions is extremely important to deliver your brand promise to your customers. So you can ask your employees, how would you describe our brand promise? How would you describe your job? How would you describe our company? All of these ideas can go to give you an idea on helping your brand. So are there any questions? You can, ask a question through the chat window, or you could certainly email us at your convenience. And just to let you know that this webcast, or it will be a webcast because it's recorded, and we will send everyone that joined us today with a copy of the presentation. Meanwhile, just to sum up, we are Grant Marketing. We build brands. We do brand research, brand messaging, brand awareness, brand strategy. If you have any questions or you want to get in contact with us, you can call us at my direct line, 857-453-6745, or email me at my email address. Go to the Grant website, or ask about our free assessment. I think I might have seen a question in here.
Yeah, there's one question from Rob.
Yeah, right. Do you need a complete rebranding of your brand? It has bad press. I don't know that you need a complete rebranding, but we can certainly help you assess what the negative effects might be on your existing brand, and with research with your customers, employees, and so on, we can come up with a plan that can help revitalize your brand and push back on any negativity that might have happened in the press. So think again of Chipotle. Obviously, I would imagine somebody's working with them to make sure that their bad press is not so bad anymore. So anyways, thank you all very much. We appreciate your attendance. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact us, and we will get a copy of this presentation out to you, if not by the end of the week, at least by the beginning of next week. Thank you very much.